Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. May I ask your attention? Please take your seats because we are starting in a minute or so.
Батумі їздив, думав, що будуть пропускати всіх.
До відкриття форуму запрошується Олександр Кубраков.
I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Kubrakov, Minister of the Infrastructure, Territorial Development and Recovery of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, dear participants, distinguished colleagues. For our ministry, Ministry of Recovery, the government, and the people of Ukraine, we are getting stronger and have additional opportunities to build our institutional capacity. Earlier this year, we started this project aiming at strengthening the institutional capacity of communities, and we're happy to announce that UNDP and the government of Japan joined this process. So we are absolutely sure that the communities will play a key role in the recovery of Ukraine, and so far as the priorities of recovery are best known locally, about recovery projects funded from the special fund are implemented via territorial communities. 20% of other projects are funded centrally. It is my extreme pleasure to note that we share the same visions with our partners, and that's exactly why UNDP, with support of the Japanese government, pre-selected pilot communities, providing these communities with the methodological guidance and options for their recovery. The ministry, in turn, is developing complex recovery plans. It is important to synchronize recovery, sectoral priorities, and regional policy of Ukraine. In addition to the proactive participation of the communities in the recovery of Ukraine, these documents look at new, including digital planning tools. Therefore, support of experienced partners is more than timely. In our turn, we understand that the direction of the government with the local communities is a byway street. I've already mentioned that we are now funding a number of recovery projects from the special fund, and the priority will certainly go to those communities who can show comprehensive recovery plans. This year, our ministry approved a special initiative looking forward to supporting communities in AC, urban development, digitalization, institutional activities, and donor cooperation. Apart from the quality planning, which underpins recovery and development of communities, we are happy to know that the UNDP pays special attention to transparency and anti-corruption activities. Jointly with UNDP, we have developed an all-round anti-corruption program, which recently been presented in a meeting with Prime Minister Shmyhal. The program helps identify over 50 corruption-related risks. We understand how important it is to act transparently, interacting with our donors and with the Ukrainian communities. Implementation of digital tools such as DREAM have shown their efficiency in practice. This forum, I'm sure, is an important opportunity to discuss Ukrainian recovery in the future, implementation of best international practices in management, transparency, and shared vision of recovery and reconstruction are important factors of effective recovery in the future. The road ahead of us is challenging, but those shared values and effort will certainly help us achieve our goals. Thank you very much for your attention.
Олександр
Mr. Kubrakov mentioned his Excellency Ambassador, and I am happy to invite Mr. Matsuda Kudinori to take the floor.
Let me start with apology, like a typical Japanese diplomat. Я все еще плохо размовляю украинской мовой.
My Ukrainian is still a bit shaky, so I'll be continuing in English, if I may.
Thank you very much, first Deputy Prime Minister Kubrakov being with us, and thank you very much, Jaco, of the UNDP representatives, and my heartfelt gratitude and welcome goes to those participants from the local communities. And particularly, I understand that today we have, among other friends and colleagues, 10 local community leaders, which include Bohiduhib, Barki, Pirilki, Cherneshcha, Novovorinsk, Kernek, Bira Cherkva, Hmelviska, Biznitsa, Ta I Oktirka. Welcome. Welcome to today's forum. Now, in any country of any economic and social development, role and responsibility of the local community leaders are very important, but particularly it is more important under the wartime. And in these connections, I am delighted and very honored to see that government Japan, together and in cooperation with UNDP, is able to support both the Ministry of the Communities, Territories, and Infrastructure Development, as well as local communities, for finding a local needs and based on the local needs, making a good planning and comprehensive implementation of the recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. And as I enumerated, 10 local communities took initiative to apply for the pilot projects, which will be provided by UNDP based on Japan's assistance. And success of your pilot projects is very important because based on the achievement of your pilot projects, we plan to expand our cooperations with local communities throughout the entire Ukraine. Now, we often hear the important word, build back better. It is very important. Why? In Japan, which has gone through so many destructions because of the natural disasters, as well as the defeat in the World War II, every time, like Phoenix, we could build back better. And there is no secret for successful build back better. You should remember only 4 things. First of all, good planning based on the facts and needs on the ground. And second, very close cooperation between the central government, local governments, as well as the municipal governments. And third, honest implementation. And the third thing goes to the 4 things, and that is transparency in implementation. Why honest and transparency is important? Because as long as local governments, local community leaders implement good planning honestly with transparency, you can be assured 100% of cooperation from each and every member of the local communities. So this is the reasons based on Japan's experience. I'm 100% sure that Ukraine also can achieve a lot in a recovery and reconstructions and build back better. Now, in these connections, I would like to take this opportunity to assure you that government Japan and people of Japan will stand with Ukraine and Ukrainian people until the day when the just and lasting peace is achieved. We are committed and will be committed. So I would like to conclude my welcoming speech by one Ukrainian phrase I like most, Razom Peremoha.
Як ми вже щойно почули від
We have just heard from the distinguished ambassador that the project is being implemented with the support of UNDP and the Japanese government. Therefore, may I invite cordially Jako Silje from UNDP Ukraine to take the floor.
Well, let me first start by saying I'm not as fluent as Ambassador Matsuda. I wish I was, and I could start at least a little bit of Ukrainian, but I'm studying, and hopefully I can soon speak also and pronounce the names of the communities as nicely as Ambassador Matsuda does. First of all, let me just say on behalf of UNDP, I want to welcome all participants in this important meeting. As we heard, this is really an event where we will be hearing from 10 communities, 10 territorial communities, which represent nearly 500,000 people in Ukraine about their experiences and the knowledge and how they are also working through the adversity of war to represent and to grow and develop your own communities. I also just want to specifically thank Deputy Prime Minister Kubrakov for your participation. Thank you also, Alexandra, for being here. And specifically also Ambassador Matsuda, the partnership that we have both with the Ministry of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure Development, and the excellent support that we're getting through Japan is really incredible and is something that I'm both honored to work with and to participate in, and it's a great privilege to also participate in these events together with you. Let me just say that each Ukrainian territorial community plays really a vital role in laying the foundation for the nation's broader recovery. And we should remember that each community also has a different context. Some of the communities are impacted by shelling, while others open their doors to provide shelter and new beginnings for displaced people. While at the same time, we also know that there are incredible labor shortages to help rebuild and recover throughout the process of development, but at the same time also financial challenges continue to remain as the war also requires more financial help and support for the military and other areas. So it will be good to hear during these deliberations also how financing are made available through different attempts and through different community mobilization and resource mobilization efforts as well. As was mentioned also by Ambassador Matsuda, it is very important in any recovery effort to have both strong bottom-up approaches but also top-down guidance. And I think this is really where the role of the ministry and the role of the territorial communities really needs to combine and bring the knowledge and experience together. There's a common saying in the development field that when people weigh in, i.e. they contribute, they buy in. They believe in the process and they believe in the recovery efforts. And I think this weighing in and buying in really represents participation as a central part of the recovery efforts, which I think is so important to ensure during the recovery process as well. As was mentioned also, Build Back Better principles is really important, and it's also just as important to have forward-thinking approaches to also deal with the recovery efforts. And that is why, on behalf of UNDP, it's really such an honor for us to participate in this important event. The role of local communities in development is one of the cornerstones of any successful development efforts in any country, and the emphasis that the Ministry of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure Development place on this holistic approach to also participate and to get the involvement, active involvement from local communities is really so important. And we also hope, as was mentioned, that we will continue to see the expansion and potential growth of this pilot initiative in many other areas. So I just want to also acknowledge the collaborative spirit between both the local communities, the Ministry of Restorations, and also KPMG, who's been a partner, together with all the experts that will be participating here today. And specifically, as I mentioned, I want to congratulate the Minister of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure Development on their efforts for bringing this important event together. And I also want to thank, in closing, the government of Japan for their financial commitment. Japan's assistance has been instrumental in helping and supporting Ukraine also through the efforts that we are doing at UNDP, and I just want to acknowledge that. Thank you, Ambassador Matsuda. So from my side, thank you very much, colleagues. All the best for this event. Дякую.
Ще раз висловлюю вдячність.
Once again, my gratitude to Mr. Alexander Kubrakov, to His Excellency Mr. Ambassador, and to the UNDP representative in Ukraine. Now I invite the participants of the first discussions to our panel, which is how to amalgamate transparency, justice, and have a proper discussion. So I invite here Ms. Alexandra Zarkhina, Deputy Minister of Restoration Ministry, Alexei Derkach, the Deputy Head of the Department, Alena Shulak, Head of Parliamentarian Committee on Self-Governance, Ivan Slobodyanek, Director of the Association of Communities in Ukraine, Oksana Prodan, Head of Association, Alexander Tula, and Oksana Suprun, Head of Military Administration of Savinska Community of Kharkiv Oblast. As you see, we have representatives of various sectors, various fields of activity. So I propose that first we give floor to the representatives of the ministry. Next will go the representatives of Ukrainian parliament, next representatives of specific communities. Alexandra, Sergey, who? Alexandra Zarkhina. In fact, I am grateful to UNDP and, of course, to our partners, government of Japan, that we are focused on recovery of the planning process. This is a very important process, and taking this wider, the planning is kind of a security process because it guarantees security to our life. We have a very wide panel. I would better run a dialogue than something, but I'd like to speak about two things. First, in the very beginning, when the recovery or restoration already started in the spring of 22, when we already asked ourselves how to organize and plan the recovery efforts. Even then, when we had the first oblast, first regions of Ukraine deoccupied, so we understood that this process has already begun. And not only that, and it is uncentralized, not only speaking about the local authorities, but we were thinking about the number of subjects, number of entities involved in that, because the funds was accumulating in one and the same basket. And this is a process going through a lot of hundreds of recipients and hundreds of donors. So we made a proper decision at that time not to try and embrace everything at once, but we started from data management. We started gathering information, and thanking to support from Parliament, Ukrainian Parliament, from the Ministry of Digital Technologies, we created a register of damaged and demolished property. So it was very nice, and now we have in hand very concrete data in sense of local development and sectoral policies. Our next task was rather complicated because we went out to a certain field working with a tool that is a recovery plan or restoration plan. At the same moment, we started working with the programs of integrated complex renovation and recovery, not only for the community to invest something, but to understand what they have at the certain territory and what is the situation in the community in order to prepare a proper plan. Next process related to renovation policy is development of regional at the regional level. So we entered then into the second stage of the war. So we started seeking answer how to approach this issue, the restoration of the occupied territories. So we decided on the strategy of regional development at the national level, and we have over 100 experts involved in this activity, and we plan to present this strategy or the result of their activity by the end of November. Why it is important? Because we are speaking about the image or vision of that, and there's a cherry on this nice cake. This is Plan Ukraine, or Plan Ukraine. So European Commission suggested this in order to understand mid-term forecast for Ukraine, what it will be, to be ready not only to recovery, but as well to reintegration process. So it covers as well reforms. And it is not the last from me, because we have as well a World Bank advice. We have rapid damage needs assessment, so-called, it's RDNA. So both, all of them, World Bank, government, UNDP, and other entities, they are involved in this process, and I understand that speaking here about very small part of our activities, and we work on that more on the local level than central level. So first of all, I'd like to point it out here that the processes are synchronized here. First of all, we are focusing on the year 27 as the year of midterm planning. Secondly, we have a good digital solutions aimed at simplifying of community activities, community life, to have proper and justified basis for the process. And third, we have very strong support from our partners, and I am grateful to the partners that are focused on development and planning documents. In fact, this brief introduction from me, I'd like to finalize it here, and I invite everybody to a discussion. My hypothesis how to make this process vivid and alive is to tie it to the financing issue. So we are living in the environment of military aggression, so we had to have digitalization, we had to prioritize the reconstruction sites, and we had to somehow have incentive for the communities to submit their recovery project. So, of course, we will be fighting for that plan, but we need to tie it to financing. Thank you. Thank you. We only will be speaking about the future, the decentralization or centralization, because we will have a budget deficit, and on 20th October the ministry already approved proper documents. So to what extent it will be conflicting with the communities, speaking about the prioritization. I have several points of view. One point of view, this is the community, and they will, of course, experience certain pressure. I can immediately answer. The methodology of prioritization. This is very important because this is kind of a structural and regulated approach. When we tested this in our working groups in the fund of liquidation of consequences of military aggression, we understood that the methodology is not perfect. Of course, it could have certain gaps, but this is kind of a fuse, because if you have certain type of evaluation of each and every site or location, then having methodology, you can argue with this. And that was kind of a fuse or kind of a tool that enabled us to synchronize our efforts with the efforts of some other sectoral policies. We will be speaking about that in the second round of European Anti-Corruption Initiative in the nearest future. So jointly with UECI, we developed a model. We expect it will work because we prepared a list of priorities, or say priority traces for each and every community. We are speaking about the liquidation fund, then you come with your prioritization, and you say we are community A and we'd like to recover B, C, and D sites, and we say that the A site could be funded from this source, and of course you may approach this methodology or you may neglect it, but we're speaking about kind of a fuse or kind of a barrier to unjustified spending of budget. Giving words to Sergei, I would like to ask if this funding will enable not corruptive interests to be flourishing there or for privatization. I probably add something to the Alexandra's speech. She has already mentioned a lot of everything, speaking of procedural level, of governmental level, how the ministry works with the implementation of best practices. My task with my colleagues, my responsibility is to provide for transparency of the processes, to implement the anti-corruption compliance principle for all the communities. We have a lot of communities now in the project, and we have a lot of international practices that are implemented in Ukrainian anti-corruption legislation, and not only about that we're thinking, but how to make our projects efficient, transparent. So we are dealing with the three major components. First of all, these are policies and procedures. Secondly, this is the personnel issue, and third issue is the tools. I believe that the colleagues will mention tools as well today, but I will be speaking about procedures and policies in, say, good, strong organizations, because we are speaking about integrity inside the organization, and we as citizens and people involved in this activity should work properly on the proper prioritization, proper planning, etc. In order to do that, we need to understand how to work with such projects. Secondly, what tools could be helpful in this work, and third, what people take part in that. Speaking about people or personnel, we are working with community leaders, run certain training for them, both with anti-corruption activities and recovery activities. We have turned from the top term in English, definition in English language, where the community leader gives the example by himself or herself, speaking about the transparency and integrity of all the processes, including the processes of restoration. Secondly, we're speaking about people that have to work with the proper understanding of the processes and proper understanding or evaluation of risks, including anti-corruption, and implement certain steps against the risks or how to mitigate them. In that view, we run training for anti-corruption representatives or advisors. We are working to give everybody a chance to use all the governmental or national standards and international standards to make all the processes and procedures transparent, efficient, and fair. We are not speaking only of recovery, because, for instance, if some other processes in the community goes not that efficient or integral way, then the question arises on if it will be expedient to implement the processes and to invest in this or that, say, community. Only mention I hear that this or that steps of our organization aimed at formulation of something we call trust infrastructure. Trust infrastructure between citizens and projects, and trust infrastructure between us and the state. Do you have black market of communities that are bad in that. No, we have fortunately a list of communities that show you the way. They sign memorandums. They been involved in many trainings, and the number of such communities increases day by day. Olena, I would like to take into account the name of our forum, and I know that you have your own thesis, but we only finalized recently with programs, international projects, etc. It's only a starting point or some scratch level of the project, so we already have rumors that everything will be revisioned. The documentation system will change at the local level. Can you say something about that? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Of course, I prepared my thesis. Most probably I will not stick to them because we'd like to rather discuss the practical issues. Of course, great, tremendous thanks to our project partners, because we'd like that more and more communities to be involved in this process, the process of getting better tools, better understanding of how to plan, how to recover their communities and their territories. In the basics of our program, I believe that everybody knows in Ukraine that we have a register of damaged and demolished property, and the ministry understands that a lot of communities are registering not only but we have a lot of communal sector entities and other types of entities. So it is very important to have this register filled in with all the necessary entities and necessary sites. This Saturday I met the representatives of local self-governance. So I was an author of draft law on this and that. And I asked them, we see the dynamics, but why this dynamic is a lazy dynamic? And they told me at a level of word of mouth that there are rumors that as soon as you entered your data into this register, nobody knows how, but all a list of, say, priorities rated based on some system, but nobody knows what system is this. So nobody knows what sites, what objects should be restored, first of all. So I would like to say very clearly that we only have one register of demolished and ruined properties, so all the objects being entered at the time when they are entered this register, they go through a proper testing, checks, audits, etc. I have a lot of representatives here of people who entered the sites. Please take this document as a key or core document for restoration. Moreover, this document will be an evidence of damages, and Russia will make it to pay for all the damages. And once I had a representative of some business circles, and he mentioned that he had 2 brick plants. One brick plant of that is at the occupied territory, another one near the front line, and the second production line is ruined finally. And I'm traveling around the country and trying to understand where to find these lines, because I'd like to produce bricks.
So what I'm driving at, currently we are paying a lot of attention to develop holistic recovery plans so that people can access digital platforms, our electronic system, government system, and see where local governments offer opportunities for local businesses to develop, to relocate, and in spite of the fact we have been paying a lot of attention to developing those all-round recovery plans, businesses still find it difficult to put their ambitions, aspirations to work. I think that we should even do more in order to make this information accessible to all who need it. Our committee, which inter alia works on Ukraine recovery, is working in the so-called interagency, interdepartmental work group created on the initiative of the Ministry of Territorial Communities, and will certainly make sure that this dream platform can work effectively without. And may I also say a couple of words on the urban development plans and the records at the local level. This is again something that will help us understand better where the country is moving. Yesterday at our committee's meeting, we were discussing a draft law looking at construction at the maritime zone. Representatives of one association said, okay, we don't love this initiative. Why don't we make it mandatory for the developers to somehow have agreement of the communities in respect of the construction of terminals? Looks fine, sounds fine, but unless communities have their urban development plans, all efforts at coordinating this will just open the door to corruption. This is why we are working hard to make our international partners help communities develop their special development plans. It's important to collect quality data so that planning is based on, well, evidence, as it were. And I think that the ministry will make sure that the systems mentioned earlier today will be able to work to process this data. And holistic recovery plans will certainly have to be discussed with the local communities and local businesses. And we shouldn't forget either about the unified government register, because now that we're planning compensations for damage, the ruined properties, this register helps understand the stakeholders, how they should get ready, and of course our international partners find this register useful in their activities. Thank you, Elena. We mentioned associations. They are with us. All Ukrainian Association of Communities is represented by Mr. Slobodyan. Good afternoon once again. Thanks to the UNDP and the Japanese embassy for being with us insofar as every single penny, every piece of advice are equally important to all of us. Now, let me, in the time I have, to reflect on what communities might need in the context of recovery. So when we just started talking about recovery, we were not just discussing property destroyed or damaged, but about the chance that all communities, no matter where geographically they were, could use some of the assistance our donors were willing to provide. In other words, even if your community hasn't been affected, the community may still be entitled to claim some of the assistance to go ahead with their effort. Now, as we look at the current effort, I understand that I want to take one step kind of back and show the communities, and I think you can join me in this initiative, to show them the hierarchy of priorities regarding damaged and destroyed property. We are a bit confused as to what facilities, sites should be at the top of our priority in recovery and rebuilding. Another thing that I think important goes to the times we started working with the donors. At that time, two views coexisted. Let's make some suggested, create a one-stop shop, you know, but now we see that there are multiple roads leading to recovery, UNDP plus Japan, Germans. Every approach has its own advantages and probably disadvantages. Some challenges stem from the shortage or lack of information, and therefore it'd be great, I'd say, that a leader of a community could access some sort of a resource and see what types of assistance there are available. Some communities are quick to respond and apply for multiple funding. There are other communities that take longer to respond. Therefore, it would be good to have one information platform showing which projects are available. And the third aspect is guidance, methodological. Fine if you know where to go fishing, but you need to have some angles and some gear. Recovery, special development, urban plans and support in developing such. And even filing applications, how they may apply for grants, for loans, etc. And this is something that I'd like to draw your attention to. Ivan, a request for clarification. Recovery, you said, is something that is relevant for all of the Ukrainian. The Cabinet of Ministers took this view, making its resolution, and was criticized. But okay, territories where the concentration of IDPs is high, or where the infrastructure has been affected, or where you have a drop in employment, they all now come under the head of recovery. So wasn't that enough? What other criteria need to come into play in order to make recovery inclusive? Yes, because there are. No, that's exactly what I was saying. That's great that this is the way it is, but we should probably, at regular breaks, review the situation. Nobody knows which communities are likely to be affected in the future by the actions of the enemy. So this indeed applies to all, no matter whether they're close or at a distance from the areas of hostilities. We are, as it were, just a step from the final approval of that policy. Alexandra? Oh, yes. I would probably reflect on the methodology of working with this whole package of information. We are planning a meeting on November the 14th that'll focus on the documentation and this Dream Academy project, Center of Excellence, also provides that all guidance documents need to be made accessible to the communities. We are also trying to keep up to date on information on the sources. But one thing is to have info, and quite another thing is to make it available, to make it accessible. Without working together, we won't be able to identify the best possible solutions. Thank you, Alexandra. Oksana Prodan, Deputy Head, Chair of the Association, All Ukrainian Association. Well, anyway, greetings to all and to the 10 communities selected for pilots. It is important to have recovery plans, reconstruction strategies, and I would call on all involved to make this planning real, to make those plans usable. This depends on the ministry's guidance and our partners, because the time might sometimes may sometimes be too short to prepare real plans. But this notwithstanding, we indeed are very grateful to our government, to our partners, to the government of Ukraine. I love to listen to Alexandra. She's so good at sorting things out, but, you know, communities might at times find it difficult to make to figure out what was going on. At our association, we try to be helpful. If, for instance, you don't know how to work with the methodologies, call us. We'll may be of help. And in parallel, we try to help the communities working with the ministries. We always have, I know, some of the comments, but our comments are not just critical ones, they include some proposals. We understand that when your methodologies are full, the situation may be similar to what it looked like before all the registers were unified. So our request is to make your documents as specific as it is possible. I don't know how there are two. Okay. In the territorial communities, you have people who have to work everywhere. Unfortunately, those communities that have recently been deoccupied or are still in the area of hostilities, the shortage of skills is acute, not just funds, but the skills, and ours is a task of making communication as seamless as possible. In parallel, we've been working with the Parliament. Indeed, yesterday we provided our comment to 9964, and well, the one that deals with the settlements on the rivers and the seacoast territories. We find it important for the communities to have a say in making decisions that affect them. This draft law lacks this focus, and this doesn't appear to be in harmony with the 2035 plans. Nothing can happen without communities. No recovery or reconstruction can happen. Good that the ministry is aware of that. And second thing, mechanisms of cooperation. By the way, something that we feel is a bit lacking. Yes, we can always attend meetings of the leading committee, and let me once again say thank you to Olena for this opportunity. We also work with the ministry, but this openness isn't ubiquitous, and local government can demonstrate how good open mechanisms is, as participatory budgets, participatory planning, and it is important now that we preserve local government in all interactions with not only the government of Ukraine, but international partners. From the association side of the House, we help communities learn how they can draft proposals, project proposals. We launched this project in the summer. We train representatives of local government. I'm talking about smaller communities, how they should draft their proposals. Sergei mentioned about principles, about ways of building trust, and His Excellency said something of crucial importance: planning, transparency, honesty, and yes. So this is something that should exist not only in the relations between communities and their leaders, but also between the communities and the central government.
I entered the panel with the issue of effectiveness, so this is a balance of transparency and effectiveness. This is one of our points that is under the focus of attention of Dream System, and Victor Nestula, who is, say, a major player in Dream System. So I understand that I can brief comments since we don't have a lot of time. Dream, this is an open system, giving you all the opportunities at the level of the community to create your investment profile, to promote yourself in the world globally, and to collect certain funds. If you need to have a feasibility study, next involve all that funds into the proper activities, and next implement the projects in order to increase the level of trust from both local citizens and international partners. And in a beta testing mode, by the way, you may join this beta testing process if you'd like. We have 157 governmental organs. Most of them are community level authorities, but we penetrated into the Ministry of Healthcare, Ministry of Education, many other ministries, and we have actually focus group covering a lot of public associations and CSO. So we elaborated a lot of ideas, including one of the thesis that was pronounced here on the multifunctional and multi-financial functionality, and again we are coordinating the donor efforts, but in fact within this functionality we may structurize each and every source of funding, notwithstanding their scale. Means it could be a smaller organization, could be international or big organization, big investment organization. So we are based on the data. If there's a program of Ukraine recovery of European Investment Bank, financing 8 oblasts, and if we have a Ministry of Healthcare with its own program of local budget funding, and they have certain thresholds not to be overspent. So it is structurized into one and the same system, and you may just see all that project in one click. So you may understand immediately what is this and that source of funding. Another complicated functionality, this is administration of certain investment programs. If you remember, within the European Investment Bank, we worked via electronic email, actually. So the ministry received 1,100 applications, and we were working with the land cadastre. So now we are ready to use our software to see all the applications, all the requests. It will be a transparent activity because you see who entered this request, what was the priorities for this and that project, why communities identified this as priority, etc. So we have a pipeline of projects coordinated with the Ministry of Finances. We have a special chart of controlling the investments. So there are several procedures how the local community could compete for funding from the state budget. So we're speaking about working with one and the same standard, one and the same template, to adopt anything in a fast and effective way. So we have a lot of tasks, and by the end of the year we will have a lot of very useful functionalities. You may join this system. We definitely will be a one-stop shop or open window for the communities with transparency at all the levels, starting from the register of damaged property and up to documentation. I can't help asking you, when can we have this functionality? We expect it will be end of this year. Next meeting of the donors platform is planned for December. We understand that all the proper coordination and approvals we will have, and of course a lot of things depends on our international partners. In fact, the functionality Victor described is that size, but the revolution is this size. So on 15th November we will show it. So now I'm advertising our events. So you remember that 2nd November it will be a report on funding and reconstruction. Next, date stands for certain reconstruction documents, and the next 15th November will be jointly with Dream, and they will show what is revolution and what we will present in London. So this test was closed, or say limited, but now it is an open test, so any community could join this, and we may organize an additional training.
яка якраз представляє одну з таких
I'd like to give floor to Oksana, who represents one of the smaller communities, and she knows how to work with all that ideas. Oksana, the floor is yours. Thank you. I am a representative today of concrete and stalwart Kharkiv and Kharkiv Oblast. We understand everything. We have a lot of stuff in our region, shelling, bombing, occupation, deoccupation. One of the most important aspects today is, yes, in fact, after deoccupation, our oblast, our community lost the most important things, which is human capital. Only one thing I can say, our Zasalinsk community suffered from occupation for half a year, and we have 35 people only as a personnel of our council. So it's only one person per one activity. So nevertheless, we have already worked with 24 memorandum, and we recovered a lot of healthcare objects, practically all of them. We are working. It is my pleasure to say that we are only planning the restoration, but we already work in that for 1 year. We have results. So what deficiency we have? We have a deficiency of methodological support. We do not have algorithm of support. We must have structurized, very specific, very concrete approach, because I've already reported that Dream I could not join it in a test format, but they answered me that you already registered, just wait for confirm of that. So we have great plans in order to have recovery, to restoration, and this restoration must work for our citizens. So register works, you mentioned it today, register of damaged sites and property. But we have certain points, certain interesting issues with cooperation at international level, because in many cases this or that site, this or that entity has not been entered to this register, but nobody knows now how to take this information. Is this priority or not? In my community, all the school buildings are ruined other than one. And we're speaking only about one big school with traveling of school buses around the oblast and delivering school children to this big school. This school is not damaged. I could not register this as an entity to be invested. But I must spend certain money on that in order to have shelters, not only shelter as an ordinary shelter, but I must have a shelter with shielding from radiation, because we have only 60 kilometers from us to the front line, 100 kilometers from us to the borderline with the aggressor. So I try to penetrate the brain of people who are responsible for that. Before 1st November, I must have the central point of contact between our administration and the citizens. So we only certain foundations rather than buildings, but I could not enter these buildings into the register. So we are trying to work with certain organizations in that. So there are certain other aspects, and one of those aspects is the plans for recovery. Because even without plans, just having a piece of paper with a list of steps, we can even work in that way. But having plans, of course, it will be much better because, for instance, I represent a village community, and we do not have experts in economics, in law, in some other studies or activities. So you could not do recovery by means of free of charge activities. It calls for additional funding. This year, taking into account the minefields in our territory, it's only 80% we have of funding we need. We have only 8 million of investment. And next year, they allocated 14 million hryvnia for the next year to demining activity. So we are speaking about fundraising, but not only we must spend money on this, but as well on the planning efforts, because we understand that our communities, first of all, calls for proper plans of recovery of our territories. So everything works, the ideas are great. We support digitalization at every levels, but in the very beginning there were a lot of hesitation because how could it work in a remote village without internet? So we tried to do everything, and it works.
Коротеньке
To
питання,
the
і тут будемо
very
говорити
brief
про це
question.
історії. Скільки вам вдалося вже проводити
How
процесів?
many people you managed to get back into your community? In 10 September 22, we had only 600 people. Now it's 9,000 people. We have a lot of people back, and I understand that not any recovery is fruitless if you don't have people there. So schools, this is a very classical case when we show you how DREAM works. And of course, it's our pleasure to work for you, but DREAM starts not with the register. It starts with a problem. As soon as you have a problem, as soon as you understand the cause of that problem, and if this problem could be solved with the capital investments. So you have several school buildings ruined, and only one big school that is intact. So you can, using DREAM, tie this normal building with the ruined buildings, and you can justify it because it was because of the military aggression. And you have steps, you have certain questions. There's
Всім по 30 секунд для
dear
того, щоб сказати фінальне
speakers,
слово.
30 seconds for the final
До перегляду.
word, and we'll have a break. The voice of community. Now, of course, we must have recovery, new rail, transparent, high quality, and openness. Of course, victory to all of us, a victory to our armed forces, because it's a difficult situation at the front line. Of course, it's hard to speak about recovery unless we have our victory in place. That's why all the emotions and all the support should be aimed at that front line. So support and prosperity for Ukraine. when His Excellency Ambassador opening the conference already mentioned the synergy with the proper cooperation, interrelations. So here we have representatives of executive power, civil society, local communities, local authorities. I understand that this is a very good company in order to make this recovery effective, transparent, fair, and fast. I'd like to wish all of us to be resilient because we don't have any way out of this situation yet. We must start recovery even when our people expecting to be killed each and every moment, I mean our military men. So we have some obvious challenges, but yes, of course, our strong sides is our beliefs, our common dream, and only we can succeed if we work together. Dear colleagues, I have the same message because many words have already been pronounced today, and I understand that the key story here is trust and dialogue. So if we have sound professional dialogue and trust, then definitely we'll be successful. Of course, such complex products like Dream, it is very difficult because nobody in the world experienced something like that, and of course, in our case, as Victor already said, will be a classical case, and of course, it would be great if no such cases we have in the future around the world. And we understand that this is a very difficult way to make for all the involved parties, all the stakeholders. Communities, villages, towns. This is, say, milestone, a key element of Ukraine. So our power is in our unity. As Sergei mentioned, citation from Nelson Mandela, you believe it is impossible until you do it. So I believe that all of our ambitious plans will be implemented, and my message is that when we are speaking about restoration, we are trying to take it as just reconstruct everything that was ruined, but we are very ambitious and most probably will deal with the projects that doesn't have any funding today, but let's dream about our projects, and Andrei helps us in that. And in my 30 seconds, I invite everybody who patiently was watching you and listening to you. I invite everybody to the next forum on the planning at the local level, and you will have all the data for the place and date later on. Now we have a coffee break, and next we will have our next session.
Доброго дня всім. Мене звуть Андрій Тимошенко.
Hi, I am Andriy Timoshenko from KPMG, a partner of the Needs Assessment and Recovery Planning Project. Before I start my presentation of this project, I would like to say thank you to the Japanese embassy and the people of Japan for supporting us financially, to the minister and other partners helping us with those recovery planning. Now, a couple of words about the project itself. From a more general discussion we had some time ago, from the panel discussion, we are now going down to the specific components of our project. It's about providing expert support to 10 select communities with a view to improving their institutional capacity in developing community recovery and development plans. So recovery comes first. Within the framework of this project, we're going to support 10 select communities in identifying their recovery and development and/or development priorities, and in developing relevant plans. How we have designed a methodology for identifying those priorities. In addition, all the communities will run special surveys in order to understand what they think their priorities should be, and those surveys will, among other things, help communities get involved and be better at what they call managing changes. As a result, recovery and/or development plans gonna be developed. Another component is AC. We will look at the capacity of communities to combat corruption, starting from the appointment of compliance officers, assessing anti-corruption risks, and anti-corruption programs. We'll be working actively with the communities to help assess the current status and develop tools to be used in checking corruption. This is important from the point of view of communities to improve transparency and combat corruption, and equally it is important for the donors, for the financial organizations that might join community development programs in the future. So all the components, recovery planning, anti-corruption, will eventually come together in the exercise of identifying sources and developing recovery plans. The third component is improving community anti-crisis and planning institutional capacity. We have already engaged communities in discussion. Some communities are clearer about how they're gonna respond to challenges are facing and sharing knowledge about their experience. There are other communities that need greater help in building this capacity. Now, to the ultimate goals of the project: improving capacity, putting anti-corruption tools in place. We'll be discussing that in greater detail during our forthcoming panel discussion, but we think that the communities should think of recovery not as a way to improve their municipal infrastructure, but as of all-round exercise, helping communities engage, take a forward-looking approach to the economic development of the communities. These projects may also include investment project, social infrastructure improvement project, and probably renewing some of the projects that were put on hold because of the full-scale invasion of the Russian Federation into Ukraine. As I have already submitted, the projects need not only serve specific interests and needs of the members of the community, but the businesses and other stakeholders. With this, a couple of words on the participants and ways to make project of adequate quality. It is important, if you ask me, that the Ministry of Recovery is going to be taking part in the project, acting as a leader. From our point of view, this will help coordinate projects better, provide speedier responses to any challenges or requests. KPMG is yet another participant. We are international auditors and consultants jointly with our partner Renewal and Recovery Project. NGO will be working with the UNDP and the Ministry of Recovery. Another important feature of this project is communication, inter-community communication. We are very much interested in them being able to share their experience and their skills. I've already mentioned that the communities are not homogeneous. Their experience is likewise different. So within the framework of the project, communities will benefit by sharing their experience and beyond it. Now, to selecting communities procedure, I'll say a few words about that on a separate note. This was an open process. Any community could apply. About 100 communities did so. All the regions were consequently broken down into 4 groups, depending on how far they were from the area of hostilities and also the degree to which the communities were affected from temporary occupation and severe damage and destruction to lesser affected but still experiencing problems with provision of services, to the more remote communities, as well as the ones that are hosting significant communities of IDPs or relocated businesses. All these communities, notwithstanding, do feel the consequences of the full-scale invasion. Now, the criteria applied to selection, challenges in the provision of basic services, recalling what you heard during the previous discussion, we focused on the capacity rather than the needs. So relocation of people and businesses. I already mentioned that some of the communities, even though remote from hostilities, have those. And yet another criteria was the relevant geographical diversification, so that we don't end up with communities representing only one geographical area. We will hear from all the communities later, but I'll start my overview from the west of Ukraine, Novovolynsk and Vizhny. It's a Chernivtsi region, category D or class D community. They are the ones that are fairly remote from the area of hostilities. Next comes communities in class C, Bila Tserkva, Kyiv region, Kuyalnik, Odessa region, and Priluki, Chernihiv region. Plus, there are three Class B categories: Khmelnyv Sumy region, Valky, Kharkiv, and Chernetchina Dnipropetrovska region. Plus, Ochtyrka and Bohodukhiv coming under the Class A community. What's been done to date, because we are now attending a public kick-off. Previously, we had developed a methodology to help identify priorities of recovery and had a number of preliminary consultations with the communities. We initiated work in all four tracks: renew, recovery, anti-corruption. Currently, we're starting our surveys to identify priorities that are perceived by the members of the communities. We're planning to start prioritizing according to the methodology I mentioned, and discussing the specific project proposals. Different communities, different needs. With this, I would like to thank you for your attention and suggest that we move on to our panel discussion, during which we are likely to discuss in greater detail the needs of the communities in question, the hierarchy according to which regional development strategies are built. To this end, may I invite representatives of all 10 communities. I hope there's enough chairs on the podium. Choose the one you like best and make yourself comfortable. Also, let me also ask Dmitro Sobchak from the Ministry's Strategic Planning and Regional Policy Department to join us here. Good afternoon. Let me start from, yes, I'd really like to kick off our discussion from a round of introductions, maybe from the distal end. Name yourself, community you represent, and in order to help us get started, name a couple of issues or challenges that you think your community is facing. Chernetchina, Novomoskovsk district, Dnipropetrovsk region. I congratulate all the colleagues with the chance we all have now as we start this project. Hope is that our project can, in fact, bring members of our communities better conditions of life during these challenging times for the entire nation. Good afternoon, Petro Panchenko, village head, Sumy region, Romansky district. Our community was in occupation. Luckily, not so much of destruction. We are 70 clicks from the border. We are building fortifications. We created a processing facility. We have 330 hectares of land. We are processing. Yes, it's a bumpy road, but we are moving ahead, and there are some advancements we have already made. Hi, I am Sofia Khudyuk, Deputy Head of Kuyalnik Amalgamated Territorial Community, found in the north of Odessa region. Reason why we're here, because we are now working towards the recovery of our community in view of high attrition of the local population stemming from our vicinity to Transnistrian region. We hope that with your help we'll be able to develop projects capable of attracting investment into the development of our community, making us more attractive in terms of labor force utilization and development. I am from Ochtyrka territorial community. We are a Class A community. We haven't been occupied, but ferociously shelled by the enemy. They seem to have been testing different types of weaponry, and we indeed are looking forward to building ourselves back better. We have significant challenges in staffing and skills. We want to make our interaction with the local community transparent and open. Many members of our community have multiple mental health issues. People look desperate, and many of them think that peace should come at any price. We keep telling people that we have to plan for peaceful life rather than sit on our hands and wait. We hope that experts that will be visiting us will provide us with good help and help local residents regain their hope for the better future. Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. I am Olha Borsch, Deputy Head of Valky Mayor. Our territorial community is just 30 kilometers away from Kharkiv. At the crossroads, Kharkiv, Kiev, Dovzhansky, logistical thoroughfare. Many people from Kharkiv, Kupiansk, and Balakliv districts resettled to us. Before full-scale invasion, we had 28,000. Now we have 23,000 IDPs who, for well, the numbers have remained primarily the same. There are 102 villages in the area, and we would really love to see that services are provided at an equitable level throughout the community. That's why we joined the project. We want to make the lives of our residents and IDPs let them stay. There are many plans that will have to be implemented in order to make this goal come true.
Good afternoon. Kharkiv region, Bogodukhiv, territorial community. I'm Volodymyr Pili, head of community. We are distanced equally from the border. Speaking of Akhtirka and us, we were lucky, we were not shelled, we were not occupied, but we have the same problems. On one hand, we have fallout of our personnel, GPs, teachers, etc. A lot of IDPs came to our community from Kharkiv, from Zolochiv, from Saltovka, and this situation revealed a lot of problems. We'd like to solve them. We have our plans, and we'd like to realize our plans. And I am grateful to government of Japan that you recognized our problems and tried to mitigate our problems. Novovolinsk, 55,000 of population. We are situated in Volyn region. As for the problems because of the full-fledged war, of course, we face the problem of IDPs and drop-down of industrial production. And of course, we'd like to understand the major points of our growth, because in fact we'd like to earn money to spend them on revival of our economy and our cities and infrastructure of our colleagues in eastern parts as well. Calls for certain investments. And it was already pronounced that the documents under question should be professionally designed and developed, and of course the great name of KPMG to be related to high-quality documents. I'd like to understand what source of financing we'll have for all that strategic lines of activities, and thank you the associations of territorial communities for your lobbying activity. Speaking of the expectations you mentioned, again, Novovolinsk as a town again became a partner of National Bureau of Anti-Corruption activity. I already had a meeting with the deputy head of this bureau, so that was mentioned as one of the components of their agenda. Good afternoon. I represent Priluki town of Chernigiv region. My name is Olga Popenko. I am city mayor. And we were lucky as well. We were not occupied, but from the very beginning of March last year, we had combat actions around our town because we are situated down the road to Kiev. And I heard that the problems one and the same for each and every community. And of course, first of all, we are speaking about outflow of people from our region. Most of them are mothers with their children. Of course, me as a city mayor and my colleagues are grateful to you for being elected in or identified, selected to participate in this project. So we'd like, of course, to create a proper environment for business development. And you know that we had one of the biggest industries, which is a tobacco factory, Priluki. We have a rather powerful investor both to the state budget and to the regional budget, and this ex-tobacco factory. And of course, we'd like that our economical indicators be higher for investments to come to our town. Not only we are participating, but as well we have certain investments, and we are grateful to our donors. So hopefully our good company, big company will succeed in development. Good afternoon, everybody. I am from Vizhnitsa community, Chernivtsi region. My name is Sergei Kolotil. I am deputy mayor. We are marked as Group D. From the beginning of this war, we accommodated over 30% of our population as IDPs. So we had certain problems for satisfying their daily demands, daily requests. So this is our major problem. My name is Vasil Morsky, deputy head of Bila Tserkva community. After decentralization, we had a dream because we acquired certain villages. Our community is cool and great. We had an idea to write our 1,000-year strategy, because we had to celebrate 1,000 years of our city. But the war started. Of course, we had certain challenges. And today the major challenge is to survive. The major problem is to have power stability, or power supply stability, rather to say. So again, we're speaking about IDPs. We have a lot of relocated enterprises, relocated businesses. Yes, of course, we do our best today, but the plan must be intuitively to be built up on the tasks that are imposed by the government. So we are grateful to the project, and we will do everything we could in order to develop a very high quality plan.
Дякую за представлення, за те, що
Thank you.
поділилися своїми
Thank you
очікуваннями,
for your
з нашої
introductions.
точки зору, після
Thank you for sharing your expectations and your expectations after our
Ми розуміємо, що у нас є певна
discussions. We understand that they are very practical. Of course, we have certain hierarchy of documents in the Ministry of Regional Development and restoration. So the documents were not just pieces of paper. The final goal of them is to improve the quality of life in communities by means of implementation of the strategy of development in each and every community. So we share your understanding of this, that the documents must be developed at a proper quality level in order to play its role in their role in funding or crowdfunding, fundraising. So, Mr. Kachak, first of all, what plans, how those plans could be used further on in the sense of fundraising and seeking for sources of financing. Thank you first of all for invitation to this great event. Yes, our ministry supports the projects that are aimed at capacity building of the communities, to give helping hand to them, support them, because the problems are common we are facing. Outflow of personnel because the personnel travels to bigger cities, to better salaries, and you know this is one of the major problems. So I'd like that you as a project, when you work with communities, to understand that you must have to pay attention to development of documents, specifically to train proper people how to do it, for them to have 100% quality documents developed finally, and for people to stay in the communities, people that you've trained, people that already experienced and say with qualification. That's why I'd like to say great thanks to the government of Japan for supporting these type of projects. As for the planning documents, look here, you understand that there are a lot of such documents. We have a law on the state regional policy introducing the recovery plan. There's another law introducing the program of recovery. There is a special strategy, nationwide, local strategies of recovery. In the ministry, we are proactively working on the draft law on the restoration. So finally, we will build up a certain kind of hierarchy of the documents. So in a couple of words, I try to give you the following picture. We are finalizing the strategy of regional development in our ministry. So the logic, you know, on that document we have a team comprising over 200 experts, and it helps in development and renovation of the strategy of regional development. So you understand this document better than us, because you may analyze your needs and requirements. The draft strategy was sketched before the war, so we decided to change it, the initial document. That's why we developed and we have formulated certain major challenges and tasks in the plane of regional development. This 30th day of October, we put this document to our website. We have already developed our vision of Ukrainian regions development till 2028. What is the key specifics of this strategy? there will be a functional / territorial approach laid in the foundation of the strategy. So we're speaking about the territories of restoration. Your communities will be communities of restoration, so you will have a chance, an opportunity to develop the planning documents. You know what is territory of restoration, and you know that we have 4 types of 4 categories of communities. So one of my colleagues, if I'm not mistaken, they are situated their community at the border. So of course we'll have some additional tools working in such communities. So we will work with you for you to tell us about your specifics. We couldn't see everything sitting in Kiev. What additional support actions, what additional programs you must have. For instance, if you are working with experts, mentioned that there is a need in additional shelters, or probably some individual shelters must be arranged for. Maybe some programs of economical developments, and everybody understands that nobody will start building new production lines in that category of communities, because we have great risks there. That's why we work with that functional category. As well, we have certain functional category of very dense woodlands, some mountainy and hilly territories. So we are trying to develop proper tools based on your understanding, because your understanding is the best understanding of your own communities. As well, there was a resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers, and we approved this this year. Then the second stage starts, and you develop your own strategies according to the methodological steps. And logically, you will understand what is the functional type of your community. Shall we pay more attention on the security and safety problems, or some other facets of this problem? And then you will create the, whole holistic level of the plan, and next more detailed plan when you have the results of your studies, your analysis, that you should increase the quality of education in your territory. In the action plan, you mentioned that you must have proper steps in accessibility of educational facilities, etc. So this is the hierarchy of planning documents.
Well, it's more challenging when the scale of destruction is higher than that. 1 or 2, 3 schools, a couple of dozen other sites is one thing. But like I say, when the destruction is mass scale, we need to practice more comprehensive approach, develop a comprehensive recovery plan, work with the urban planning documents, and then following the same logic, however, select sites or facilities you will have to rebuilt or built anew. Well, logic is fine, but we need skills, and we hope that the projects like that will help us with the methodology to be put in place. It'd be a shame if we have any mechanism of recovery for mountainous areas without being in touch with the communities. Same holds true for the areas close to the area of hostilities. Now, funding, it's clear that there are no plans without funding and no funding without plans. The Ministry of Finance, for instance, said they'd only finance those proposals that are in projects that are in the recovery plan. We haven't been able to do that because of the ongoing shelling, and so we decided to defer this requirement for 6 months after the end of the active hostilities. One way or another, we will certainly work according to recovery plans. I know that our foreign partners want to fund recovery of the objects that are in the relevant planning documents. Of course, I'll be able to answer other questions should representatives of the communities have them. That's great, and I would certainly encourage esteemed representatives of the communities to ask their questions. I, in the meantime, have another question to ask. You know that there are a couple of other projects going on as funded by international donors. Dmitro, here is my question. The DREAM system, in the previous discussion, mention of it was made, and some representatives of the communities were keen to learn how this system is likely to help the communities. Well, it is clear in terms of its benefits at the national level, but what about the communities? How would communities, territorial communities, benefit by it? Victor, in his contribution, described the system in sufficient detail. I will add, however, things that might be of interest to the communities. DREAM will have a structured project card, quite complicated, but believe me, after you filled all the questions, 200 or even 300, you will see that having answered all 200 or 300 questions, you'll see clearly how mature your proposal is and whether it'll be good enough to claim funding from European sources. DREAM is about managing investment, so by filling out the questionnaire, you will be able to identify how many more issues you need to sort out before you can. So for territorial communities, DREAM gives a chance to better structure their internal processes. If you're gonna do any recovery as funded, at least partially, with your own money, you'll be able to better oversee the functioning of your departments and divisions. I myself have experience of local development. I know that people sometimes get frustrated at seeing so many questions they are required to answer. In practice, you see that answering the questions, you come to a conclusion that there is no way you can undertake that project at that given time, but other participants can apply relevant filters to see which of the projects fit their requirements and interests. So this is a bilateral process, and the first proof of your capacity is being able to properly fill out the questionnaire and provide a good proposal. Access to funding, adequately developed project proposals, and clear understanding of which sources, programs you can tap to find funding. That's a very brief description. I see that there are some questions. Well, we took part in beta tests. Two facilities have already been funded using DREAM. DREAM experts help us with their messages that are sent daily, what to improve, what to refine. Problem is low, well, computer literacy of local skills. You have to basically supervise what people do with the system. So yeah, PC literacy indeed leaves much to be desired in small communities, and highly skilled IT guys don't live there, and being able to use DREAM means having adequate computer skills. Unfortunately, there is no way out. I remember one of the communities where social protection system was to be implemented. The staff of the department looked and got terrified. You would be surprised if I told you the name of this community. So we then found some project funds to hire a guy who'd be working with the system, and then the local staff learned their ropes. You have to just make them work with that, and you will see how fast they can master those skills. It'll be a way to discipline your subordinates and to feel yourself more confident while presenting any proposals, your project. You need some PC training course? Okay, you mentioned that IT guys don't live in those communities. They will. We have to know each other much better, and we have to be able to communicate. We have a good team, a team of professionals. I already mentioned that we have taken part in numerous projects, and we will certainly be happy to share our experience and skills, and if someone decides that we can take the lead, we'll be prepared to take it. And thank you for that initiative. I've got a question to ask of Dmitro. Dmitro, 10 years ago, it was crystal clear, and the war made it even clearer. Energy security, energy security. So let me ask you if nationally something is being done to help us or to compensate us or whatever you call it, to jump off the natural gas needle, as it were, and use alternative renewables more, like solar panels. We have already done a number of projects. Well, there are 8 or so in the pipeline. Well, answer is simple as that. Everything is in our original development strategy, which emphasizes the need to switch to alternative energy sources, to distribution and generation, separated, unbundled. But if you just mechanically transplant the wording of the strategy to your local plans, won't be good enough. A dream, on the other hand, will help you see projects related to energy security, energy independence. I saw a very interesting project proposal for energy independent communities, and I know that some of the funding sources are looking for relevant projects. We're gonna have good many projects looking at solar, at heat and power generation. There are different options. For instance, in some places, wood chips would be good. In other places, natural gas, why not? So I'd say that every community should try and monitor that. Currently, the ideas are aired at different platforms, but soon it'll change. And you know that local communities need to be ready to co-finance like 20% or something like that. So be proactive, and I'd say that we should also improve our communication with the communities. I think that that energy security is something that we are as interested in as you are. So starting next year, you can go to Dream and see those donor projects, not just donor projects, all projects, government funded, all ideas that fit the bill. If you, however, can develop your proposals and places on Dream, yes, we have, unfortunately, time left for one question only. Andriy, I have a question or a request. Please pay special attention to local development component. Well, we hear that there'll be documents showing growth points and project opportunities on Dream or elsewhere. I think it would be as expedient to work with the local economic development resources and mechanisms that might exist locally. All colleagues will probably say that some of them might run into budget deficits, having lost some of the sources of revenues. So it's good to try your luck in different projects, but it would be even better if there are instruments to engage businesses, small, medium-sized, and large ones, to become more attractive to investors so that we can, well, start financing our own projects, and where local funding is not enough, we can go look for external sources of funding. So business investment, economic activity, as I could hear from your conversation, well, additional jobs will generate revenues, and revenues will amplify local budgets, and local budgets can be in turn used to improve living conditions in the communities. With this, I would like to appreciate inputs from the representatives of the communities and the Metro. I see that expectations are high, the aspirations and ambitions strong, which is good, and I hope that these 10 communities make but the first wave of this initiative. Other communities will follow, will join, show activity in other projects, initiatives. So let me conclude by congratulating on the commencement of this effort, and thank you for attendance. Over to Alexander Salentai to wrap it up and wind it up.
Дякую.
So, in next 5 minutes, we'll adjourn our forum.
Виконувати всі технічні функції. Перший підсумок, який ми почули за підсумками великої дискусії
Outcome
з представниками різних секторів, це те, що
after the discussion with the representatives of different sectors, so the system of planning documents undergoes evolution. Again, in the first and second part of our discussion, we heard that we do not have any time for waiting or sitting on our hands. We must use the documents we already have in hand. We must improve them, etc. And Metro already mentioned that we are planning to work over the existing documents towards synchronization between different planning documents. So jointly with the Agency on Restoration, we once sit down, took integrated development of communities, etc. We say compared one and the same information in different documents, so we understood that there are different wording, but information is the same. So if we unify all the documents, we immediately understand where do we have gaps in the text. So we started to understand that the information that is included in this document, it is not included in that and that document. So when we cover these gaps, then the community has the entire package of all the necessary documents. So we prioritize all the steps, we gather all the documents, so on a long run we can just approve everything with one and the same meeting of the city council or community council. Because in fact, all the documents in community we have nearly finalized, but it only sounds good. But in many cases, in real life, we understand that many projects are not systematized, are not finalized. So in many cases, the question is, why do this? What? Shall we not be taken into dream if we don't have this and that, or if we don't have a strategy? Then starting from 27th January, it won't go. Or ministry could say, you are not our partner. In fact, there is nothing like that. We do not have motivation like somebody say, make community to do something. If you don't have strategy, then we won't speak to you. Do not approach us. No, we do not have such laws or something. As you already heard from Metro, that nonetheless, all the documents, all the requests, all the applications we collect, because speaking of the legal side of the story, all the documents that are approved at the level of communities should not be taken as legally ideal, so to say, because the government still finalizing the plan for renovation or recovery of this or that territory. That's why we do this, not because authority or government stop communicating to this or that community or refuse to take this or that project. No, we're dealing with some other reasons. First of all, we're speaking about effective governance. We must understand that this is a priority of highest rank, this is a priority of the second rank, and again we are speaking about the realistic self-governance, to be open, to be transparent for all of our citizens. Because people, they'd like to understand what it will be with their community in due time. And third, speaking about money, in majority of cases, we will have, first of all, international capital and international organization. We will be dealing with money coming abroad. So for our foreign partners, it is very important to understand where from this project is emerged. Was it your initiative? Was it initiative of your community? That's why in the very beginning I've already mentioned that the priorities of this and that structure could be not the same as the priorities inside the community. And I agree with the ministry, it's nothing bad in that, because if out of the priorities indicated by the community, 2 of them only is good for the ministry, 3 of them is good for this or that governmental program, it's okay, it's a normal situation, so we may only have the response from Dream System or some other entities. So then we will have have the answer for where to invest. Speaking of the design and develop documentation, the project implementation, etc. So we have understanding, and we can convey this understanding to our international partners. In my understanding, if one UN structure assisted to prioritize all the priorities of the reconstruction and understand what is the state budget community responsibility, what some other, then we go to some other UN structures, and we may approach secondly to certain partner structures. So finally we can say that we have already found a partner in implementation of these points of restoration. And this is very practically useful for you. That's why my congratulations that majority of the communities in Ukraine have these opportunities. So congratulations, you have this opportunity, and I hope we will see each other in next meetings, and we will be able to compare the projects, compare something of your success, and to make kind of a roadshow to communicate it to some other UN organization, to drag into some other partners. So thank you to the Ministry of Renovation, Community, Territory and Infrastructure Development, Government of Ukraine, UNDP, Andriy Timoshenko, KPMG, to representatives of 10 communities, to Oksana, who represents the community that is out of the projects but nevertheless is interested in taking part in all that, and to association of the local governance or local self-governance. Thank you everybody. I'm saying, using this opportunity, hello to other associations. Sergey Zavidra, I see you. Thank you.
Асоціація ОТГ каже, що це я провтикав із їм запрошенням. Принагідно